We're going to see if I can stay tethered to this microphone, because I'm afraid if I start walking around, I will indeed trip on somebody. As a lot of us tried to collude to not overlap in our time and what we share, you're going to hear lots of great stories about what it's like to be in one of Ken's classes. And so I said, all right, let's try something different. Let me take some of the lessons I've learned from him as an instructor and share how it is now shaping the way I approach my coursework, and hence teaching inspired. So one of the lessons I learned from Ken: Google doesn't know everything. Now, admittedly, when I was an undergraduate, there was no Google anyway, but the idea being you cannot just find every answer you need in a book. You can't just go to the library and find everything you're looking at. His point to us was you have to go talk to people to get the answer sometimes. And so in my construction engineering course, I took that to heart, and I've asked my students to develop a plan for placing concrete along a 300-meter path. Too easy. You can Google that, you can chat GPT that one. But I want lots of detail on how you're going to get concrete to the path, and they need to minimize the impact on the surrounding environment and identify the trade-offs made. So to hit the high marks in the rubric, we've got more ingredients. That still seems too doable with the good language in your search. So let's make it in a tropical rainforest. They're gonna have to get concrete up a 100-plus-year-old road with this historic bridge, so they cannot get trucks within a mile of the start of the trailhead. As you go through the jungle, you'll be placing concrete under a canopy of tight foliage. When it daylights, there are incredible views, but ground is rocky, it's wet, but when you get to that waterfall, of course, it's gorgeous. It makes it all worthwhile. The students either love it or hate it. Right? But I tell them up front, you're not going to get an answer to this without picking up the phone and talking with someone. Can I just send them an email? Good luck getting an answer to this problem by email. And so, as most of us have dealt with in a newer generation, they'll text, they'll send you a direct IM, but to pick up a phone call for many of our students is terrifying. Okay, but I'm gonna make them do that, and so I've gotten some amazing solutions. I think we've heard bring it in by helicopter. We're going to create a mini batch plant underneath the canopy. One person says, I'm going to totally buck the system. We're not going to use concrete. We're going to plant really close bamboo, cut it off low, and then it's going to create the walkable surface. I'm like, great. Just tell me about these conversations you're having with practitioners. We've actually turned some of these students loose on some of our folks in the audience here, and thank you for how you've helped them. So Google does not have all the answers. Another lesson I picked up, you don't know everything. Now, having been a Cornell undergraduate, believe it or not, a lot of us students have an ego problem. Can't imagine how or why we would think that graduating in 4 years, all of a sudden we would know everything. Everybody shall bow at our feet with the amazing knowledge we have. We don't need to ask any questions. We are so much smarter than you. And Ken was very quick to point out that is so wrong. And the smartest person you will probably meet on the job site maybe graduated high school. And so it so took to heart for me, the folks doing the work are going to be the ones that carry such the wealth of knowledge. How do I get my students humbled to recognize there is much to be gleaned from these folks? And so one way I've adapted that is in our construction methods and equipment course. And here's the task I've given them. Find someone who's got experience repairing equipment. So they're in class and they draw lots. They draw random numbers, and then I put up on the screen, if you're number 3, you have this piece of equipment by this manufacturer. Your job, go find somebody who repairs it. Take a photo, because I want to know they have gone to talk to this person and actually seen this piece of equipment. Find out the model number of that particular one, and then have the mechanic talk you through what are the 2 most common repair issues, and then there were specific questions that go along with those repair issues. And the students love it. I thought there would be such pushback. They come back and they then present to the class. One person, John Deere front-end loaders, comes back and shares the stories about all the cool things that the mechanic took them around and showed them. It's the fuel water separator is the Achilles heel of this particular equipment, goes out the most frequent, but mechanics typically will go to the field, 2 hours labor plus travel. It's all done and taken care of, and your loader is back into service. Another student's given a Grove crane, and so they found who's our local crane dealer, talked to them, and it turns out the hydraulic piston is the key issue, and they actually have maintenance crews checking on these routinely in the shop or in the field and in the yard. One of the key issues that in this case was because it's such precision equipment. The students got a dissertation on German-built technology for cranes, the precision measurements that have to be built into that actuator to get everything to line up perfectly when it's in operation drives the mechanics crazy, but that was their key issue they walk away with. And so now the students are recognizing who's got the knowledge, they're not afraid to go talk to them, and they're thinking towards, oh yeah, that equipment that I'm just going to specify and rent and send to my job site is going to go down at some point. When do I need to be thinking that equipment's going to need to be sent back? When do I need to bring somebody to take care of it? So humbling themselves to go do some digging and research and talk. Lesson 3, trouble is gonna find you. And sure enough, it was not long after I started my career as a faculty member. So first off, if you've never met me, my camera is with me all the time. I've actually got my bag right over here. I'm looking for pictures of cool stuff, construction or structures to use. My poor family just knows when I pull off on the side of the road, it is not for a pit stop. It's because I saw a cool bridge. Okay. And so I've got my camera out with me. We stop in Valdosta, Georgia one day for dinner. Family goes to eat. I say, I will catch up with you. Just buy me something. I see construction over here. Grab my camera, and they're working on installing this steel beam. And so I'm just snapping away at this. And hopefully some of you are starting to appreciate here, that person's not tied off. He does have a harness though. And that'll hold all the pieces in when he falls down. And so I share this with my students. I take them on this journey, and thank goodness most of them look at it and are like, oh, that doesn't look right. Indeed, that would not be OSHA compliant. That looks like a safety concern, and that opens the dialogue of what do you do? So in my structural analysis course, there are going to be times where we just pause, and I want to express to them broader issues than just it's numbers you plug into the calculator. Again, a takeaway from Ken's courses. And so when facing an ethical dilemma, we talk in terms of, all right, you're the one. I walk in on that site. I see that person up there. Who are the stakeholders? Because it's more than just the person up on the steel. It's more than the crew around him. Students start identifying, well, what about the company he works for? What about the client they're building for? What about the local community? What about the first responders who have to come if there's an issue? What about that person's family? All these different stakeholders. Great, everybody's should be considered in this. And then we talk about what are your options? I could yell, hey, come down. I could call the contractor. I could report it to OSHA. I could do nothing, right? I could contact the owner. All right, for each stakeholder, for each option, what are the likely impacts? There's going to be positive outcomes, there's going to be negative outcomes. If I yell to that person, oh, could let go and fall. All right, that's an important outcome to consider. And then once we have all this information, I've got stakeholders, I've got options. Those options are going to have positive and negative outcomes for each stakeholder. Filter that through your relative value systems. Right? You're going to have your personal values, you're going to have your professional societal values, right? All my students hopefully are going to go on to be licensed engineers, so we have our code of ethics, okay? Run that through that filter and make a decision. But I want to emphasize to them, they are not doing this looking to the future post-graduation. Take a look right at the top of the door frame as I start our video here. What do you see? Come on, somebody, what do you see? Bouncy. Oh, that's a real bouncy floor, isn't it? Students from my class were at a formal function, felt the floor vibrating, went downstairs, shot this video, came back to my office on Monday, all excited to say, look, we were just talking about deflections in class. Look at what we found. To which I said, what are you going to do about it? And their jaws dropped. So now I bring this back to the students, say, we've just talked about this ethical process. Your assignment, you're the students in my class, and you just saw this. What are you going to do? You've got 1 week to give me your answer, run it through this filter. And it becomes tangibly real. The number of folks who come back as alumni and tell me, I remember that exercise, and when this fill in the blank happened at work, it made all the difference in the world, right? It's about making the learning very visceral for them, and that comes from the takeaways I've had with you. So on behalf of not just me, but all of my students who have been blessed through the lessons inspired by you, I want to say thank you very, very much, sir.